Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Construction Record Podcast. I'm digital media editor Warren Frey, and with me today I have
Nicholas Tountas.
And Nick, why don't you tell us who you are and what you do?
Thanks for having me on, Warren. I'm a 20-year Red Seal sheet metal worker here in London, Ontario, and I currently work at a company called Orzik Heating and Cooling. Not sure what else to add right there.
Oh, okay. Well, I know I can add you've been a pretty strong advocate for the trades. I'm going to start with one of the most unique ways to advocate for trades I've heard of. You have a cooking show on YouTube that is specifically about the trades. So please explain to me what that sentence means.
In itself, it's just it was a fun way that I came up with. I stumbled across it actually, of creating YouTube videos, sharing my love of cooking while promoting skilled trades to hopefully encourage or entice young people or even people considering a second career, an alternative pathway.
And what kind of traction have you gotten with that? Have you seen people come for the cooking and stay for the trades, or be involved in the trades in the first place and learn to cook? How's this working?
I'm not really sure how how people get drawn into this. When I initially started, it was a series. I was trying to get Doug Ford's attention, Premier Ford, because he had a cooking show, or a cooking clip, I guess he did during the pandemic.
Right.
And what I was trying to do was encourage him to bring that back, and that is how it all started. Somewhere along the lines, though, I decided to start talking about skilled trades because I am a huge advocate, and I know how desperate we are to recruit more people into the trades. I was wrapping up the first season. I thought, you know what, this was fun. I think I'm done with this, though. But then I had a ton of people reach out to me and tell me how unique it was, and they wanted to see more in the new year.
And what have you got planned for the new year, for one thing, if you can tell us anything about it?
Well, when I started these videos, I never had made a YouTube video in the past. So it was a lot of trial and error, and the clips were really long. They were kind of boring, very static. So moving into the new year, I've kind of fine-tuned my editing a little bit, and I'm hoping they're more dynamic, more interesting. I'm going to be creating different unique meals, I guess, that you don't generally see. But I think the big thing that I'm going to be trying to bring on is actual tradespeople to interview. A lot of women in trades I want to be talking to, people that have explored the different pathways that you can obtain in a skilled trade, like owners, estimators, project managers, things of that nature.
And speaking of women in the trades and just tradespeople generally, but KickAssCareers is pretty well known in Ontario for advocating for women in the trades. How did you get involved with them? Because you are involved with them in some manner, right?
Absolutely. How it all started is I shot a promotional video talking about sheet metal workers with our Minister of Labor here in Ontario, Monty McNaught. And after shooting that video, I reached out to Skills Ontario and I said, hey, how can I be of assistance? How can I spread the positivity of working in a skilled trade? And we had a few discussions, but Jennifer Green, who works for Skills Ontario, says, hey, I know this really great advocacy group here in Ontario. I think you'd be a great fit. And she introduced me to Jamie McMillan, who runs KickAssCareers, and we just hit it off from there.
And what is your, I hate to use the term advocacy journey because it seems a little, I don't know, fluffy, but what was your advocacy journey?
Well, it was, I was actually trying for several years to transition out of a skilled trade and get involved in health and safety, whether it was an inspector with the government or getting into a plant of some sort, or even educating on health and safety. And I made it through the final rounds of an interview. I got really close, but I ultimately wasn't selected. So what I did is I sulked for a little bit.
Yeah, and as we all do. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I sulked, and then I kind of redefined my focus on what I actually wanted to do. And at that point in time, my son was just exiting high school, and he got into the skilled trade. He's a sheet metal worker at the same company as I am. And I really thought to myself, like, these are the people that we're trying to attract, these young people coming right out of high school.
Right,
And I love trades. I love talking about trades. I love talking about the stigmas and the stereotypes and how they're untrue. And I thought to myself, you know what? I want to use my platforms, whatever platforms are available to me, and start talking about trades. So I caught Minister McNaughton's attention on Twitter with some of the advocating that I was doing, and then except we had that interview, And it just steamrolled from there. I started reaching out to a bunch of organizations here in Ontario, and they love my message. They love my enthusiasm. They really liked it from especially a tradesperson's point of view. Dispelling a lot of those stigmas and stereotypes, talking about women in trades, how we need more women in trades, talking about the lack of diversity that we do have in trades when it comes to ethnic populations. So it's just it's steamroll one item after the other. I've been to a few skilled trade events, made a lot of connections. It started where I was reaching out, basically begging people to allow me to work with them, I guess. And now it's at a point where people are reaching out to me, and that's a great feeling.
I'd like to talk about the family aspect in a bit, but you also mentioned stigmas and stereotypes. So we should probably say what are those stigmas and stereotypes that you're pushing back against?
I think I think we've all heard these stigmas and stereotypes that it's not really a career, it's just a job. For people, trades are for people who are uneducated or who it's a pathway for criminals. It's the only job that they can get. That women don't belong in trades because it's too physical, it's too demanding, that they don't pay well. That's another one that really stands out there. And that, you if you aren't gifted in high school when it comes to education, and then automatically you're just destined for a trade. And I think a lot of those are so outdated and pretty asinine, if you want my honest opinion on it.
One of the ones that stuck with me, I talked to these women in, I think they're in Boston, the trade advocates, and they would go into neighborhoods, like poorer neighborhoods, and they would explain, if you're a nurse, and plenty of people are in those neighborhoods, you can easily handle anything in terms of lifting on a site because a human body weighs about as much as anything you're going to carry, which is a great point that nobody thinks of. But so you're right. This is exactly an example of that. One thing I was going to mention is you sent us a little bio and you said you're a single parent and being a tradesperson was a hindrance and a savior at times. So could you explain what that means?
For sure. I obtained sole custody of my son when he was 6 years old. And it was the greatest moment of my life, being able to be there for my son and raise him. But it was difficult being a sole custody single parent, and the rigors, the demands of working a trade. Sometimes you're on the road at 5 a.m. in the morning. Sometimes you're not getting home till late at night. So that's when it became a hindrance at times. It was trying to juggle my work balance with raising my son, and I had to make a lot of hard choices in terms of employment, because I had some employers over the years that were really understanding of my situation, and I had some that weren't. So I had to take those opportunities, I guess not opportunities, those situations, and decide, what's best for me. Is collecting that paycheck, that steady paycheck, what I need right now, or is it being there for my son? So that's where it became a hindrance at times. It was very difficult, especially as a male father, I believe. But where it's been a savior at times is I've always been able to put food on the table. I've always been able to make sure my son was taken care of. I don't come from like my upbringing is nothing extraordinary. I went to high school, went to college for a bit, but I own a house. My vehicles are paid off. I have no debt. I have the ability to travel whenever I want. If my son needed something over the years, I was able to provide it. There was no hesitation, and that's where I guess the trades was a savior. It was something that I could count on, and there was always work for me there, and I was always able to provide.
And also, your son is now going into the trades himself. So did you have to, not have to, it's not the right way to put it. Did you mentor him in the specific trade he was in, or did you need to even? Did you just kind of pick up on it?
Well, he actually, here in Ontario, we have a program called the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, where you can jump into a pre-apprenticeship while still in high school. And my son was going through to be an automotive technician. This was right around the time that COVID started.
Right. Okay.
He was working at Ford, doing a lot of service work. COVID shut everything down. He was unable to work and complete the apprentice or the part of his apprenticeship for his education. And he ended up graduating. He was still looking for a job as an automotive technician. Couldn't find any work because a lot of people were still laid off. They weren't going to just bring in some young people to work on top of that. I said to him one day, I said, man, like if you're really interested in pursuing a trade, Like, you can come work for me. You've seen what kind of career it's been. There's a lot of the same principles. It doesn't matter what trade you're in. You know, your mathematics, some science, the hands-on, the ability to problem solve, things of that nature. And I said, give it a shot. And I said, you always can fall back. You can always go back to the service technician if that's what you really want. Or you could just consider that a hobby down the road. But there's an opportunity, there's an opening here, you should jump on it. And he did. He hasn't looked back since.
Okay, and I guess finally, in terms of your own advocacy, besides the cooking show, what else do you see in the future? What sort of paths do you see branching into to keep advocating?
I asked that question of myself a lot, because the more that I do this, the more engaged that I am, and the more rewarding I find it, and I feel satisfied, I guess, with my my accomplishments. So I've been weighing a few options. I'll keep the cooking show going for now, see if that gains any traction. But ultimately, I would love to work with youth. I'm with a bunch of youth boards here in London, working with children and things of that nature. So I think maybe education is somewhere down the line from here pretty soon. Maybe going to university and getting a bachelor's in technological education. But yeah, I think teaching these youth while they're still in school, the benefits, the how lucrative they are, how rewarding these careers are, and how those stereotypes and stigmas are false. I think that's right in my wheelhouse and something I would love to do.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for joining us today, Nicholas.
No problem. It's a pleasure.